Good morning or afternoon, depending on when you watch this show. My name is Don McKinnon. I agree to disagree with.
You agree to disagree with John Cochran? Thank you for being with us again.
And John, you always have something to start us off of a controversial nature.
I do. I
Which
thought
is
virtually everything I've offered has been controversial as
should
far
be.
as you're concerned.
Well, because you're wrong.
Yeah. As Don says, I do have a couple of key topics, as is my habit in doing the show. And one of them is, and this is all under the theme, I might add, of America is getting drunk on entitlements. And my first subject that I'll discuss today.
Drunk?
Yeah, on entitlements. Food stamps, otherwise known as SNAP benefits. Would you like me to proceed with that?
Yeah, but of all the benefits that maybe should be corrected, food is probably kind of important
Of course food is important.
because you can't do much without it.
Everything is important when it's handled
It's a
properly.
source of energy for those poor people.
I understand that. And for that, I think it's a good program overall. However,
Uh-oh.
you know,
It's
what's
however-
happened lately is that the government, well, let's start with a few facts, and then we
Okay.
can go from
All
there.
right.
The government pays out roughly $70 billion in annual food stamp benefits to about 45 million people, or 1 in 7 Americans.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Enrollment has increased by 70% since 2007. This growth was due in part to the weak economy. Obviously, people lose their jobs
Yeah.
or they can't get by. They need food stamps to eat.
That helps.
And it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. Both parties want to make sure that the needy are taken care of. So let's make sure people understand that. But it was also due the rise to recent relaxed qualification standards.
Ah.
And the numbers that I've seen indicate that it's about half and half in terms of the growth. So half due to the weak economy and the other half because more people qualified and signed up for food stamps. Now, a family of 5 can receive $793 per month, not including, obviously, 180 free meals, also offered at public school for the school-age kids.
Okay.
So when you talk
But
about
they got $173
you got $793
per month.
per month per family of 5. Plus, remember, the school lunches in a lot of cases are free. They don't pay for those.
That's true.
Now, a recent Inspector
Well,
General
for the
audit,
kids.
right, for the kids. A recent Inspector General audit suggests a full-blown crackdown on fraud in the food stamp program
Yeah.
could save $222 million a year. That's quite a bit.
It is.
Now, much of the fraud involves the owners and or employees of smaller so-called convenience stores exchanging or trafficking food stamps for things like cash, drugs, and guns. And they've seen that happen with various establishments. In addition, many have reported that their food stamp cards also were lost multiple times during the year. And then when they get a replacement card, they sell their replacement cards to make extra money. In other words, there's very little verification done. If you have one of those EBD cards,
You go through the checkout.
you
and-
write in, no, you write in and you say, hey, I lost my card, can I have another card? It's virtually automatic. And there's no limit on the number of cards that you can get. So if you're getting your food stamps and you get your monthly allotment, all you have to do is take the other cards and sell them. They're even selling them on eBay,
Wow.
if you can believe that. People have used their food stamps to buy luxury items like lobster, filet mignon, caviar. Now, that was confirmed by grocery stores in a study and in a review. In fact, a study showed that many people on welfare eat better than people in the middle class who don't qualify for benefits. Think about that for a second. So there's no incentive there from the food perspective. So, what's being done to curb and control
Yeah.
food stamp programs. Now, this is amazing to me. Currently, I don't know if you know this, the House Republicans are proposing cuts to Medicare and food stamps, specifically, of $45 billion per year, while the Democratic Senate wants cuts of $4.5 billion a year. Now, I don't know how in the world they can get to such extremes. There's a big gap between 4.5 billion and 45 billion. But that's what they're working on. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how this comes out. Now, how do you feel about this?
I keep going back to it, John, because it's like beating a dead horse. It's management problems that exist, not the system itself. I go back to a point, I can remember I interviewed a town clerk one time, Millville, Mass., town clerk. She would give a payout to a recipient who was poor. And that person would take that voucher down to the local store. And if they tried to purchase cigarettes or anything other than food, the clerk would get on the phone to the town clerk and say, Margaret is here and she's trying to buy you. Put her on the phone. I'm going to cut you off. You're going to get nothing if you keep doing this now. You come back here and we'll have a talk. And the girl had to come back, and then she went down again. When these things first start, they're manageable. In one of my youths, I sold a corrective shoe. I can remember when poor people couldn't afford the corrective shoe. I can remember when they came in with a voucher to buy a corrective shoe, and they were very nice about it, and it was a wonderful thing to happen in their life. Then they came in the next time, and they're more comfortable buying it, and then they come in the third time, and hey, you. So what happens with these things is people lose control of them. Federal government really, I believe, is inept. I mean, we have to start that off and say, well, they are or they aren't, and I say they are.
Wow.
So it isn't the...
I agree with that, but I'm surprised you have that position.
Well, because it isn't the food stamps that's the problem. It's the managers of the food stamps. The food stamps is a wonderful system, getting vitamins into people or whatever,
The purpose of the food stamps is a wonderful thing. However, even beyond the management and the administration, John, beyond that, there are still certain aspects of the program that are abusive and that, might be too generous. For instance, this overall concept of people on food stamps in some cases eat better than a middle wage earner that's out there with a job.
I'm put the asterisk and C below on that on a footnote.
Yeah.
The story I love, John, if you're going to do that.
By the merchants.
Well, what I'm going to say, here's a story for you to tell. There's somebody out there coming up with food stamps, and they're driving a Cadillac. And they've got a fur coat on that's worth $5,000, and they come in with their food stamp.
So how do they get the
Well, I'm saying, no, there's no such person. This is the story.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, you think there is a lady in a Cadillac with a $5,000 fur coat coming in?
Well, I don't know. It might not. It might be a Volvo instead of a Cadillac, but you could bet that that's the case, and that's why $222 million worth of fraud on, and that's just an estimate. Some studies I saw suggested it could be a lot higher than that.
Whose fault is that? Here's the thing about people that are poor. People that are poor, we can say, first of all, most of them are uneducated. We got to say that. That's one of the things about it. I've got a statistic in here, which I'll bring out in a minute. Don't let me forget now. Mm-hmm. But people that are uneducated develop something called street smarts.
Right.
And they may not be able to pass a test to go to college, and they may not be able to, to get a job.
They're good at gaming the system.
But they know the system. And that means that if you're
That
smart,
doesn't mean it's right.
oh no, I'm not saying it's right.
Okay.
I'm saying that why is it though that someone with their doctorate degree from
Right.
Harvard can't outsmart that person who went to grade 4 or 5, has never really held a job in their entire lifetime, but right down the line they know exactly what they can do and how they can get away with it.
Sure.
That isn't a Democrat or a Republican problem. That's a management problem.
Well, just for
I mean, when
example,
you mention
in terms of the abuse,
I will
let's
find
talk
out
about buying the cigarettes and the alcohol,
Yeah.
and the guns for that matter. You say to
Buying
yourself,
guns with food stamps.
yeah.
Oh,
You say, or anything.
Well,
with
that's
food
to
stamps.
hold up the place, John.
Anything with food stamps. Now you say to yourself, well, why in the world would a merchant be willing to sell somebody
A gun.
well, or alcohol or cigarettes on food stamps when they know that's not the intent of food stamps? Because a lot of people have gotten wise to the idea that they will give the merchant the food stamps or the card. You know, they're synonymous. One is like the other. When we talk about food stamps, it's the debit card as well. And why would they do that? Well, they do that because, again, being street smart, okay? If I've got $300 worth of food stamps and I want to buy a $150 gun, I will tell the merchant, you know, I want to buy the $150 gun, but I will give you all $300 of my food
yeah.
stamps.
Which
that
mean-
happens a lot.
But what does that mean, though?
That means that the merchant gets rich on your tax money, and it means that the person that should be getting food stamps to eat with is getting these
This
products
isn't-
that don't benefit them.
This isn't
from that
dramatically
perspective.
different from the person who steals from a house, an abandoned house, copper, and then goes to the junkyard or one of those places and sells the thing.
Yeah.
And the police go around and try to catch them doing these things.
Right.
It's a crime. When you,
Of course it's a crime.
But that's not a Democrat or Republican
I
problem.
didn't say that was.
No.
I just said in that case, and I'm not saying
Well,
this
we have
is
no difference.
Democratic or
Yeah,
Republican.
we-
I'm
we
saying
have-
in that case,
Yeah.
you know, we are taxpayers. We deserve. I don't think there's very few people that I can ever remember in my lifetime. I mean, in fact, I'm having trouble remembering. Where if they saw a woman and her children starving in their house,
Oh,
would not bring them food.
yeah, I understand
I
that.
don't care whether you're
Yeah.
what party you're from. On the
But I
other
mean, there is
hand, when
that,
they stand
you
up,
always leave it with that implication, though. It's something to do with those liberals that do this. Those liberals might be the people that push the food stamps, but it's the conservative that vote for it.
but then they go too far, Don.
Well,
You
okay.
said it yourself. You said when it began, it was
yeah.
a good program,
That's
it
right.
was in earnest, and
That's right.
since then, look
Yeah.
at the growth I just mentioned to you.
Well,
a
they get-
lot of that is due to the fact they've relaxed standards
Yeah.
on the people that can get food stamps. And by the way, I say that's part of the socialist objective here
Yeah.
by the administration.
Well, it isn't the
We want
administration.
this
The administration
country to be
doesn't want Johnny
socialist.
Jones to buy a gun with $300 worth.
No,
of food.
absolutely not.
And the other thing is that just in the paper, when you mention that, just in the news in the most recent weeks, as a matter of fact, it's Channel 5, I think, doing one of their spotlight things, was these cell phones
Yeah.
where the government gives a person a cell phone.
Right.
Now, it should be a cell phone for 911. It shouldn't be to call up Willie Lump.
No, I agree.
You
I agree.
know, but you know, and they interviewed a guy who has a cell phone, and they gave him a cell phone.
Yeah.
And they said to him, "Do you think you should have a cell phone by taxpayers?" He says, "Well, no, but they gave it to me."
Yeah, that's right.
And then you got guys on the street getting a commission
Yeah.
for lining
Yeah,
up people
absolutely.
to take it.
But
And
it's
they got
still
some
our
families-
tax money, Don.
Yeah,
You know, if you look
but
at the
it's
job
all-
market,
But it's not Democrat Republican.
well, it
It's-
is in some cases Democrat.
Oh no,
Republican.
no, no, no,
Because remember,
no.
this administration, I mean, in my mind, there's no question in my mind, they proceed down the path of socialism.
You mean like Social Security
No. Social Security, as we mentioned before, as I mentioned before,
that you paid?
I don't consider Social Security a socialistic program because
Because
I paid into
it.
Social
Did
Security.
you ever think?
Therefore,
I'm gonna
I
ask you
have
something.
earned Social
You've said this
Security.
now for the 9th time, so now before you say it the 10th, I'm going to
Okay.
ask you a question. Have you ever gone back after you think you're paying into that insurance plan and figured how much you paid in comparison to how much you're taking out since you retired, and
Oh.
how much you will if you live to be 90.
I
will
have
take
paid far, far more than I have taken out thus far. And obviously, whether you make anything on that depends on how long you live. The Social Security Administration covers itself. I might die next year, God forbid. If I did,
I,
I
for
wouldn't
one-
have gotten
I, for one, will
any of
miss you,
what I
John.
paid
I
in.
will
Thank
miss
you.
you.
I appreciate that.
That's all right.
I knew there was some of that
That's
some of that decency in you.
Well, not much, but there is that.
But so we realize that in the program it's set up to benefit the people as a whole. But I'm contributing to that. That's not like
But see,
food
you're not
stamps.
against.
I
you
don't
and I,
contribute
you
to
and I
food
don't
stamps.
agree to disagree.
I-
We agree, but the problem is on the management of it, which you say somehow or other you will get back to the point that it's the Democrats that are doing this, and I'm saying it's
It
the
is, well-
Republicans that are doing it to the agricultural community, the farmers that have to carry their farm states, so they're giving in ethanol and things of this nature. They're
Don,
giving
this
subsidy
whole thing,
to them,
it's the same
and they won't
old
give
thing.
up on that.
It's
John.
the same old thing. It's redistribution of the wealth. If you look at what
Yeah,
socialism
the Republicans
is and
have
what
to stop that.
capitalism
They have to
is,
stop that, don't they?
if you look at what, I think they have to stop abuse and they have to stop these programs that have gone
For the
way,
farmer,
way too
for the
far.
farmer.
For anyone that isn't entitled to it, and for anyone that's just sitting out there, I mean, so many people now
see,
are making
John-
the decision not to work, Don, because it's cheaper to stay home and get welfare. A couple of shows ago, I showed you a statistic which said that the average amount that people can get from welfare, taking everything they can from the government,
Yeah.
oftentimes exceeds what a middle income tax
Yeah,
paying family can get.
You and
Now,
I don't agree,
there's something
disagree on
wrong
that.
with that.
There's something, but what happens is the person who has a good work ethic works out there, and in some cases, because they make a wage so low they can't live a quality life, but it's too high to qualify for welfare, they're the ones that are suffering, and that is why you institute some of these programs like food stamps, because they may need that so they can eat properly. I mean,
Yeah, but that's-
some of these places to rent cost $1,000
There's
a
no
month.
doubt that some of that is needed, and we agree on that. We've
Yes.
already said that.
Yeah.
You like the food stamp program.
Oh, of course I do.
I like the food stamp program too, but when it accomplishes its objective, which is to serve the
But
needy.
your implication
and the
isn't
hungry.
that I like it to be not operated correctly.
No, but that's what's happening.
I'm as
Don.
important.
It's not operating correctly.
And
Look at
whose
that
fault is
growth.
that, though? That's an
Are you
administrative.
kidding me with that growth in it? I mean, growth in food stamps, again, that's socialism. Now, this gives me a chance, if you agree, to roll right into the update on Obamacare, because this
We
is
definitely need that.
this is
John.
yet
You-
another
I know you're in favor
socialistic
of that.
program, Don. Another program of
People are
socialism.
going to pay a lot of money for insurance, and it's not a giveaway program. They have to pay for the insurance.
Can I start you with some early facts?
Yes, please.
Okay. The program has been, and I'll just say this right out loud,
Uh-oh.
been an absolute disaster.
It hasn't
Some
started.
people-
How could it be a
some
disaster?
people- it is an absolute disaster.
It started 4 days ago.
You know how many
guys are
people they got to sign up for it across the country
Six.
the first day? How many?
6 or 7.
Say that again.
But they were quality people.
How many were there?
There were 7 of them, but they were quality people.
There were 6, but you're right, so you know that. They were quality people.
Well, yes, they were the people that really needed it, and we're all.
Do you recall when President Obama said, in
I know what
pushing
you're
this
gonna-
program?
yeah,
Well, you might know, but some of the viewers might not
Okay,
know.
go ahead.
Okay, we're talking to the viewers here.
You're ripping on the guy.
This isn't
who's-
just a conversation
who's probably-
between you and I, or we
I-
wouldn't have a
I
show,
know,
right?
I know. No. But
I
but
agree with you.
Obama-
Most of the viewers have heard this, and you know why they've all heard this? Because President Obama said it 1,000 times. If you like your doctor, you
And
can
you
keep.
like
Wait, no,
your-
don't
there's
do
more.
the end. And
There's more.
if you like your doctor,
Yes.
you can keep your doctor.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
Number 2,
Well, this is more.
yes. If you like your insurance plan,
Insurance plan.
you can keep your insurance plan. Period.
Yeah.
Now, that's how he starts by
I
selling
know.
this.
I know.
He also says the average family
Yeah.
will save $2,500 across the country. Now that the studies have been done, they show to the contrary. On average across the country, the average family is going to pay $7,500 more for the insurance. But that's Mr. Obama. Now, neither of his claims, none of those claims
Which term
proved
is
to
this,
be
by
true.
the way? His first term or his second term?
Well, the Obamacare is taking place in the second term. So,
And isn't it, no, I just
neither
want,
claim,
before you get into, I just want to say something.
you know what makes it
Isn't
worse?
the average president, he's not sorry that he runs again because there's a, you know,
Yeah, but see,
there's a
don't
political
even get me going
thing
on
in them. But the point is, they really, most presidents don't do well in their second term. and Obama.
Well, that's
no
because
exception.
they
And
don't have
your
to
guy-
worry about a third term.
your
Don.
guy-
Thank God for term limits, which I know you endorse as well.
Oh yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
Yes,
No.
you do care.
What do
We
I
had
care
a
about?
show
What do
where
I care about?
you argued vehemently that term limits were no good.
Well, it may be good for the President of the United States because it's a one-person executive branch,
It is.
which ages the average person 2 times their average.
That's true.
If they, you know, so the
Have
point
you
is,
noticed
but
that?
you don't hear term limits for Congress,
Yeah.
really.
Oh, absolutely. There should be term limits for everybody.
For
But
Congress too.
yeah, that's old
2
bread.
terms and out.
That's old bread. Sure, two
terms
terms and out is fine. Now, so replacement policies are mostly higher cost than the cancel policies. People all over the country are having their policies canceled. All over the country. People all over the country are losing their doctors. They can't even stay
Where are the
with their
doctors?
doctors.
They go to Cuba? Where are
No,
the doctors
the
go?
doctors no longer participate in the plans that are being offered by the insurance company or whatever, and therefore they lose their doctors. Now, new policies require coverage that people don't need. Do you and I need maternity or birth control? Probably not.
You notice I hesitated before I
but
spoke.
we have to pay
You never
for it.
know in this day and age.
And,
Some of the prisons are being
if
changed
you
over.
say you do, then that'll be a topic for another show.
That will be the show of the year.
All right. People with limited income, by the way. I don't know, a lot of people don't
Don't
realize
pick on the
this.
poor people because they'll come and get
No,
you.
no, listen to this. I
Okay.
automatically signed up for Medicaid instead of Obamacare when they go on the site and go through the application. Did you know that? I just learned that
Medicaid's
myself.
a wonderful policy.
It goes to Medicaid.
Yeah.
So in other words, if your income
Wouldn't
is
you?
low,
Yeah.
when I go to Obamacare to
Yeah.
sign up, forget about
I thought we established that, John, that the rich people have insurance and the poor people have insurance called Medicaid, and it's the working poor that are in need of this insurance, Obamacare.
well, depending on how working poor they are, they can get subsidies from the government, from Obamacare. That's one of their positions that they
I'm
push.
just saying.
Now, so what happens, though, as all these additional people, right now there's hundreds of thousands of them, maybe millions already, that have signed up for Medicaid, and that means you and I, Dawn, are going to have to pay additional taxes because the people that get Medicaid don't pay into Medicaid like they do in Social Security and like they do in Medicare. So any additional person that gets Medicaid has to be funded somewhere.
By you and I.
Yeah. Well, you
You know, the problem with insurance is, though, the people that are arguing it, 85% of us already have insurance. You have it, I have it. People who debate this on these talk
Well, I have
shows, they all
Medicare.
have it. Yeah, you have insurance.
I have Medicare and I have a stopgap policy, or what they call a Medicare gap policy. However,
Yeah.
you know, Medicare is in some trouble right now because, first of all, they took $700 billion out of Medicare to pay for Obamacare. $700
Do
billion.
you feel that your Medicare isn't going to be valid anymore because of that?
I don't say it's not going to be valid, but I say it's not going to be as highly respected by the medical
I
community.
don't know about that.
Well, it's a matter of simple economics, Don. You're Dr. McKinnon, right? I'm your patient, John Cochran. Dr. McKinnon thinks that I should have this particular procedure done.
Yes.
And I say, oh, and you say, well, what do you have for insurance? And I say, well, I have Medicare. All of a sudden, Medicare no longer pays as much for that procedure as they used to
Have you
pay.
had that? I don't know anybody who that's happened to.
Yeah,
It's happened to people?
absolutely.
You know them?
I don't know the person.
No, but I mean,
It's,
do you know of it?
I've read of it that
okay.
it's starting already.
Oh, all right.
Doctors have already left the profession. You talked about the doctors going down to South America? Well, the truth is, many doctors have already left the profession, or they've stopped taking Medicare patients entirely. I've seen them interviewed on TV. They can't make it work, Don. No.
Medicare or Medicaid, John?
Medicaid, I'm talking about. Excuse me. I mean Medicaid. Now, if many Democrats, by the way, are now suggesting a 1-year delay in the personal mandate. You remember the personal mandate? They had 2 mandates: the corporate mandate.
I know. Yeah, this is
And
the greatest
President
thing in the
Obama-
world. You get this guy. This guy did foul up. You're just, it's to you, it's like Christmas morning.
Well,
You're having a wonderful time. Yeah,
I
he
got to
grew-
admit, when I get up on Christmas morning, the more presents under the tree, the more I like.
This is something out of the truth. Because- I'm going back to the second term, though. What is
Yeah.
it about the second term that people do things that they're almost on their way to jail? They're almost being impeached in the second term.
Well,
They
here's
just-
the thing, though. Here's the thing. Now,
Okay.
let's make this really interesting.
Oh,
You may recall when the Democrats were fighting with the Republicans about renewing the ongoing budget spending, limit, all that stuff.
yeah.
That it came down to the Republicans asking the Democrats really for one thing. They said, delay the funding for a year for people too, not just corporations and businesses, but delay the funding, delay the mandate. Excuse me, not the funding. Delay the mandate that they sign up for 1 year, and then we'll give you everything you want. We'll fund the entire additional budget. That is what they said. And you know what? The Democrats wouldn't do that, and so the government
Is this wall
closed.
caving in here?
The government closed. If
John,
they had
John,
done what the
you're-
Republicans asked
I'm
them,
getting away. Your
at the
pants are on
beginning.
fire.
No.
No, they never said if you delay it a year.
Yes,
then
they
we'll
did.
Yeah, they want you to delay it a year, but then they didn't say, and then we'll go. They never said they'd go along. They are dedicated.
oh, no. They said,
What'd they
because
say?
I heard it
What'd they
over and
say?
over again.
What'd they say?
Don, they said that
Uh-oh.
if you agree to delay the I mean, they
1
went
year.
through different
Who's
things.
they now? Who are they? You mean this? What's the name of the funny guy? Cruz? Is that his name?
The funny guy,
Yeah, the funny guy, Cruz. Is that
Ted
his name?
Cruz, is a patriot. A huge patriot. Good
He's
God.
a Canadian. He comes down here like some of the singers, and he sings.
You should get down your knees and do a mea culpa after calling Ted Cruz that. But anyway, let me just say this.
Teddy Cruz, is that what you call him?
They went through the various iterations of the budget, what they
Yeah.
would agree to.
Yeah.
We all know how that went. The Republicans were willing to sit down at any time. The Democrats said
The
no
Republicans were
negotiation.
good to a fault. It was
No
just
negotiation. The president didn't want to negotiate. Right?
because it was already a law.
Harry
You
Reid
know,
didn't want
There's
to
an
negotiate.
old-fashioned thing here that when you pass
Yeah, it
the
was a
House,
law,
the
so
Senate,
what?
signed by the president, upheld by the courts, it's a
Right.
law. And then everybody's like the guy that holds his breath
Well,
is going to take his ball and go home.
yeah, but don't get
we don't
confused.
wanna
There
do
were
it.
several
What do you mean you don't want to
stages.
do it? It's a law.
But there were several stages here. They didn't say anything about killing the law. At the end, all they wanted, not to close the government, was a delay on the individual mandate. They gave up their thing on
That's
the
all
medical
they thought.
tax.
That's all they thought
They
they
gave
had
up
left.
their thing on the well, that's what I mean. But they had that left, and they said, okay, we will.
How many billions did that delay cost the
Excuse me?
taxpayer? How many billions was that? It was,
Oh, I don't remember.
oh.
I don't remember. But
That's funny. You can remember
20 some
things,
odd
but-
billion, I think, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
24 billion. I knew you'd remember it if you took time.
Yeah, there's a lot floating around back there. But Don, let me say this: the point that I'm trying to make here,
Yeah.
okay, and you're doing a pretty good job of obfuscation here by, getting me off
Now
my,
you're going to get people looking that up,
my key.
what you just said.
But you look it up, and you will find that at one point the Republicans said,
Yeah.
delay the individual mandate for a year. If you do, we will fund every other part of the government. We will discuss what's going on with Obamacare, et cetera. And the government did not want to do that. Now, the Democrats themselves, after the disaster of the launch on the website and what have you, and everything that's going on, and they realize what a calamity this is, they are now saying, we agree. Now, they want to do it for 3 months, but some of them are saying, hey, let's do it a year. My point is that if they had done it
Republicans
originally,
can't
when the
even-
Republicans asked them to do it, Don, the government never would have closed. That's what I'm saying.
The Republicans can't even agree what to have for lunch. The Tea Party has totally destroyed the Republican Party, which I, as a Democrat, want to thank them. I think I should send them a card wherever they are, whoever they are, because you're going to see them either go third party or they're going to start to dictate to people to a point where they can't really run government. Government is the art of compromise.
There's
And
always-
this
there's-
is the old Ronald
I've
Reagan,
got
Tip
news for you.
O'Neill.
That's right.
What's news?
What's the matter
You
with
got some news?
the old Ronald Reagan people?
Where are they? Ronald Reagan agreed to compromise.
Oh, yeah. And so
And
did,
the Tea Party says no compromise.
well, so did the Republican Party say they wanted to compromise on this last issue with Obamacare. And the Democratic administration and the White House
In
said
the
no.
11th hour, after we lost billions of dollars, they finally agreed
No,
to
this
come
was
along.
before it all closed down. But anyway, let me just
Okay,
finish.
and then I'm going to get into something else here.
Okay.
Not that this hasn't taken your usual 10 minutes.
I know your contribution
I don't-
gets it off once in a
I
while.
know.
Obamacare continues to kill the job market
Oh, my God, I'm sorry to hear that.
with layoffs and reduced work hours.
Hmm.
Businesses are going under 50 employees, so it won't apply.
Yeah.
And they're also cutting people below 30 hours so they don't have to cover them in the first place. Now, you'll recall that several shows ago, I predicted that Obamacare was a bad law and that it would be a disaster. And now, at the time I said, let's get rid of it. Defund it.
You do
whatever-
understand it's just starting.
do whatever you have to do.
It's just
I
starting.
understand it's just starting.
Okay. I didn't.
But-
I just want to make sure you know.
Yeah. So now, you know what? I'm not concerned now. You know why? Because now I'm even more confident that this thing is going to implode and it's going to crash under its own weight. So I
that
feel better.
See, it makes you happy to hear something's going to fail.
Has nothing to do with him failing. I mean, if it was a good program, I'd say it's a good program.
You
It doesn't matter, Don, if the Republicans put this thing out there, I'd be saying the same thing to you right now, or the Libertarians, or the Independents.
Libertarians, where are they? There's one guy, Ron Paul.
That's right.
Who's a
Fantastic guy. He is a libertarian.
He's all over the board.
He
He's
is
so
not.
bad that you agree with him and I agree with him at different times because he never says the same thing twice.
He's a constitutionalist.
Is that what
Now,
he
do you have issues with the Constitution?
is? Sure, I do.
You do.
Yeah.
Because
That would slow you down.
Because the
You
Republican-
expected me to say no, didn't you?
the
Oh, I have
Republicans,
issues
I
with
never
the-
know what to expect from you, Don.
I have issues with the Constitution.
Well, Ron Paul
Especially
is
since
a
they allow
strict
drinking.
constitutionalist.
Huh?
That's what he does, like his father did.
In his mind.
That's what the forefathers planned, and that's
I
what he
kinda
likes
like him
to
though.
stick to.
He's kind of, yeah, I kind of like him.
Well,
He's no
not
Chris Christie, but I kind of like him.
Chris Christie. You mean the
I'm pointing up to
the
the
Republican
people
turned
out there
Democrat.
who are Democrats are nodding and saying, "That's right, Donnie."
The Republican
Here they
turned
go.
Democrat,
They're
is that
gonna
who you're
have-
talking
they're
about?
He's going to lose another 100 pounds. He's going to have a charismatic. He's going to win by 80% to 20% in the vote.
You know
probably.
what? If he was a good Republican, I wouldn't care if he weighed 1,000 pounds. If he could get to his office and do his work
all
and
you
work
can
on the behalf of the people,
all you
I
can
would support him. If I thought that, but he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat in Republican clothes. That's what he is.
How do you know that?
Well, just look
What-
at the things that he's been doing lately. Watch his moves, who he supports, what he says, etc. At first, I took him
Yeah,
as a
that's just
maverick.
because you know I'm for him. That's why.
Well, I know you'd be for him now because now he's a Democrat. But anyway, you
I'm
have
going to read off a statistic to you here, which will not surprise you, by the way.
okay.
And this chart here, I should kind of show you.
Oh,
People
wow.
can see it.
Wow.
People
What
can
does that
see
say?
it. And they can't get in on this thing. No, they can't get in on this thing. This chart here is a breakdown, John,
Yeah.
of the unemployment.
Right.
And what it does, I'll give it to you because you've got the copy that you can kind of see it. That people
Oh.
who have dropped out of school They do not have a high school diploma. Their average income is going to be $20,000, and they are 55% of the unemployed people in Massachusetts, 47% in the country. Those who have the high school diploma, next line down, they make 20 to 40,000, and they are 26%. So it's almost a quarter of the people. So you're up to 75 basically. Now you get up 1 to 3 years of college at 70. It's 40,000 to 75, and that's 18%. And then you get the bachelor's degree, and they're up to 100,000, and that's 5% unemployed. And then you get the master's degree, that's 3%. The reason I'm showing you those statistics, these will not surprise you, by the way, and we don't disagree on this, that if you have a good education, the chances of you having a living wage is good.
Absolutely.
And if you do not, and so it's one of those things that if a kid drops out of high school,
Right.
and one of the problems I'm running into with education is the fact that, and I'm going to take on something that's a sacred cow called inclusion. Inclusion is that everybody can come into a classroom, and you can have a young person who is unable to pass any tests, and you can have 2 or 3 of those in the class. Well, I hate to say this, but years ago, you had what they call ungraded class. That's the room those people went to. And then you had the generals, then you had the academic, and then you had the accelerated program. Now, the United States of America is whining about the fact that we do not have kids as well educated as in some other countries. At the same time, they think inclusion is a wonderful thing. Now, people say, what's wrong with inclusion? Everything's wrong with it if you take it by its definition, to take and slow the teacher down. Some teachers won't admit that they're being slowed down. I'm going to say to you this, John. If you're a teacher and you have students in there that are very challenged, and then you have academic, there's no way you're teaching to the academic. You've got to teach to the slow student. So therefore, even the one in the middle, and the word is, they have this word, which is not sounding good, they dumb down the class. And then they wonder why, when they get to college, the college professors are saying, what are you sending me? These kids can't even pass a basic test. College now has courses to teach them what they should have learned in school, in high school in many cases. Now, is that everything? No. But I'm just saying, look at the unemployment for those who quit, because they're even as dumbed down as they have education, there are still people who are not graduating from high school. And as a result of that, they are 55%. You know, in the years ago when you and I were, and things were good, 5% on your regular savings account, you remember those days?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and at that time, unemployment was 5.5%. That's what Richard Nixon. One thing, people don't like Richard Nixon. There's a lot to be said about Richard Nixon.
I agree with
China
that,
was
too.
one of them, and another one was his 5.5%,
Yeah.
and that was a figure he worked with.
He was a very effective leader in a lot of ways.
You know, the whole thing you find out about these guys, John, and I know people, you and I and people out there can keep a secret, they've got their issues. Even the most brilliant people in the world have issues.
That's right.
And so therefore, you get a president like John Kennedy, and they asked John Jr. one time, how would your father do in politics today? And John Jr., knowing what his father did, said, oh, he couldn't get elected today. Isn't that something? Yeah. And so Richard Nixon had an idiosyncrasy that overcame his ability, which is a shame. It was in his second term, by the way. He survived the first term, and if he had got out, he would have been fine. But anyway. So anyway, that's the thing on education.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this, and I totally concur with your point here. This is certainly an agreement. So the question becomes, how do you keep these kids in school to get their diplomas, and how do you incent them to go on?
When they talk about teachers, they say, well, the old-time teachers, and I say, teachers today are great. They're trying to overcome obstacles that are being placed in front of them. It's like they're running in a track meet and someone keeps throwing logs after, so they've got to avoid the logs to educate people. But in the old days, there was an old school teacher who said to a young school teacher, it's a true story, do you put all the dummies down front? And the younger teacher said, what?
Yeah.
Said, yeah, do you put all the dummies down front? Because then you know you just don't pay much attention to them and you go and you teach your class. And that's the teachers that everybody say, well, they don't make teachers like. That's the teachers, the way the teachers used to do. They used to take the kids that couldn't do anything and they say, we know they can't do anything, so just let them sit there. When they're 16 years of age, they'll go off and go to work. They'll do menial type of work, and we'll all get on with our business.
Not only do I endorse your position here strongly, but, and this may surprise you,
Oh.
I would go as far as to say that I would commit more taxpayer dollars to education of our students all the way through college. I'd give them subsidies. Now, I'm not talking...
In a way, we're doing that
has
for
to be
college, state
well,
colleges.
Yeah, but not as much as we could.
Oh,
I'm not talking about wealthy people, you know, that,
Yeah.
that can pay their way and so forth. I'm talking about a needs-based
Yeah.
issue. But why would I do that? Which seems contrary to a Republican ideology.
conservative.
I'm doing that because it creates opportunity. And I believe, and have always believed, and this is the libertarian in me, I've always believed that while I'm not in favor of reallocating the wealth, as the current administration obviously is, or redistributing the wealth, as the current administration obviously is, I am in favor of trying to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to create that wealth. And how do they get that equal opportunity? Right here.
Yeah. Join the union.
Just what you
Oh,
said.
I mean...
Education.
Education. I thought you wanted to join the union.
So if you can, so if somebody
I've always-
can do the college
Yeah.
work done, in other words, they should not be held back from college because they will put the effort in, they will get their college credentials, and they will bring about their own good life. And what do? They become taxpayers instead of tax users, and they will make the entire country wealthier. How's that for socialism?
It's interesting to watch, though, John. Like, for example, we'll take the Chinese. The Chinese government is so-called pulling ahead of us educationally and all, yet in their cities they can't breathe.
Yeah.
And,
No.
they're
They're not
walking
as
around
big on
with,
climate
with
control.
masks on, walking around that. And so here we go again with the long-term plan of ecology and whether these countries are going to finally get to a point where that's why China's going to slow right down, because they have to do things over there that we've done already. The big thing we've got going in this country is we've got infrastructure, we've got infrastructure, we've got laws that many conservative, and one of them I got to agree with them with, because once in a while I go off the rail too. This pipeline coming down from
Yeah.
Canada.
You don't like that?
No, I like it.
Yeah, so
I'm
do
saying
I.
going off the
Yeah, you...
yeah, off the reservation.
Why
because,
not?
Because bring it down.
Absolutely.
Get to a point where we could be self-sufficient.
We are
for oil.
self-sufficient if we decided to change some of our rules.
Yes, yes.
You know, we've
And
got
we
more gas than
yes,
anyone does.
I know. But here's something I saw the other day, which won't surprise you, because I'm sure you saw it too. Coal miners, black lung disease.
Yeah.
The settlement won in court was $1,000 a month. Now that's $12,000 for the year. $1,000 a month, and the coal company appealed it and beat them because they brought some doctor from Johns Hopkins out who said that's not their problem. And of course, in the meantime, the guy they were covering, the television station, the man died of it. However, he didn't have it, according to the coal companies. It amazes me that, and this is one thing that I know you agree with me on, the original reason for unions was health. And the irony of the situation was, it was the people in the coal mines who started this. But unfortunately, they're not educated enough to go off and do anything else. So as a result, they bend for the cleaning up of the air. To this day, people are dying of black lung disease.
Yeah.
That is unconscionable, not only of the corporation, but of the unions and of the government of the United States of America. But they know that if they implement these laws, these guys will close down the where these coal miners go and strip mine, and so therefore they're looking the other way on these things. So this country, the one thing I would really love, and no one will give this, nobody I talk to can give this to me, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could make coal so it doesn't poison the environment? Because we have coal for 500 years. We just can't use it anymore. And even countries that are very conservative are getting away from coal. And the cheapest, of course, is uranium, and of course the waste products. They don't know
Nuclear
what to do
power.
with it. Nuclear power.
Yeah,
So-
it's interesting because I just saw something, I think it was a couple of days ago, on nuclear power. That would be the ideal as far as green energy.
Japan is 100% for it, and then all of a sudden it blew up in their
Yeah,
face.
well, of course, and I mean, people are very, very afraid of it, and I understand that. But it's also not cheap to produce.
Well, look
as
at
I-
Plymouth, for example. They're
Yeah.
down there, and they're never sure whether it's operating correctly. And as a
No.
matter of fact, they've got escape routes.
Yeah, do you worry about that?
No. That's not my
Well,
nature
you
to-
should.
Oh, I don't.
It's certainly close enough to affect you if something
I
happens.
noticed that, but it's in my makeup from where I come from. There's things you worry about and things you don't.
Yeah,
And that's
fair enough.
And that's one of them that I don't.
Fair enough.
So, but I should. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I mean, let's get on to it. We got about 13 minutes to go.
Okay.
Let's jump around. Edward Snowden,
Yes, my hero.
being facetious, he says. Oh, is he a hero? He's got that information. You like that?
I think he began as a hero.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's probably deteriorated into something a lot worse now.
He's living.
He was a
where's
hero
he living?
because
He living in
constitutionally
Russia
he felt
now?
that the
Is that where he
American
is?
yeah, he's in Russia.
Yeah.
He felt that the American people had a right to know that their government was snooping on them. And by the way, when we started talking about that, you know, there were so many claims that, oh, this was just gathering data. There's no emails, there's no telephone calls. Now we know all of that's not true. And what do you think of our government openly spying on Merkel from Germany? Okay, the prime minister over there, and having that information get to her. Can you imagine that? And 30-some-odd other countries doing.
Now, wait a minute. You're
When
going to
he-
tell me you're naive. I'm going to say, people out there, John is acting naive.
You know what?
That everybody isn't
You know what
doing
the
it.
difference is? Maybe they
That
are,
they-
but you don't get caught.
Ah. So there. I'm
You
going
don't
to give
get
you two
caught.
other names. I'm going to give you
Go
two
ahead.
other names. Benedict
Yes.
Arnold.
Benedict
okay?
McKinnon.
Yeah, that could
Benedict-
be.
Benedict
Arnold.
Arnold, yeah.
My brother is hiding in the tree. Benedict Arnold and Gary Powers.
Yeah. Gary Powers.
What was Gary Powers supposed to do?
Remind me of Gary Powers.
Gary Powers, in his later years, became a weather helicopter driver. He'd fly around there. He was a pilot,
Okay.
and he was flying over a Russian with a, what they call that, a U? Did they call that a U-2, John? Do you remember years ago? Gary Powers was a pilot that was flying a plane at that time that would go above to a point where the radar couldn't catch him.
Yeah.
And what happened was, I guess he either developed engine power or else he got a little too low one day,
Right.
and
And
they
he
shot
crashed.
him down.
Oh, they shot him down. Okay.
And the question was, of course, what was Gary Powers supposed to do? And it is alleged, which I know the government wouldn't do this, of course, that he had a pill that he was supposed to take
Yeah.
so that when the plane crashed, he'd be dead. But Gary decided there's a lot more to life, and he said maybe the Red Sox could win. So he decided not to do that. At the same time, a very nice man who was my kind of guy, except he turned
He
Republican.
spilled the beans. He
No.
turned Republican.
Well,
So
no,
what you
no, I'm
said-
talking about there was a guy in France negotiating with the German leader at the time, named Dwight David Eisenhower.
Yes.
Now, the reason I say he should have been my hero because he was a basic C student.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds like McKinnon, a basic C student, But and he was a very good manager, though, Eisenhower, And he was there saying to them, "What do you mean we have spy planes? We don't, And they walked him down a path.
I think it was, I think it was a U-2.
U-2, I believe it was U-2. Gary Powers, he ended up as a weatherman, and he just passed away within the last year or two. And he had a little pill, but he didn't take the little pill. I'm just saying, since the beginning of time, people have spied on people. There is,
but look at the problems that cause. The disclosure of it is what caused.
Which is why Edward Snowden is not a nice young man.
Well, unfortunately, it turns out to be very detrimental to the United States.
And therefore, he's not a nice man.
Well, I don't know what kind of a man he is. I mean, that's.
Well, he's a guy that gave up.
He might be just trying to save his own life. He's over in Russia for crying out loud. You don't know what they're pulling from him. Now, if he's
there are people that I know that I'll tell you what they would do, and it wouldn't be you. We or I wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
There are people I know who would whisper in the ear of the spies from Russia.
Right.
Snowden he's here to get a lot of information on Russia. And therefore, in the last moment, he's going to take off in an airplane. He's got all this confidential information. What do you suppose?
A double spy?
What do you suppose would happen to Mr. Snowden in Russia?
A double spy, you mean?
Yes.
Well, first of all,
what would happen to him in Russia?
If he stops feeling...
What would happen to him? Where would he go?
Well, I'm telling you right now, Mr. Snowden, if you want to play a Russian general...
Devil's advocate,
I will say to you, I'm Mr. Snowden.
Yeah.
I'll say, listen, there's a lot more where that came from. All you got to do is give me shelter and treat me nice.
That's what they gave him.
Yeah. And so he's releasing it piecemeal. He probably figures that once he runs out and he's no longer good to them, he might disappear one evening.
Do you think that could happen, John? That he just disappeared?
Doesn't that happen?
Well, he didn't pick the best country in the world to do this.
No, but you know what? Here's the thing, Don. You say that, but what other country would have stood up to the United States when they said they want him back? The others that he went to first were feeling the heat.
Yeah. So
and they didn't want to be on the bad side of the United States. Now nobody cares about the United States because we don't have the power or the image we had once before. And Putin, as a matter of fact, as you know, didn't he just win the Nobel Peace Prize?
No, he didn't.
Well, he won something.
Oh, well, he won. They gave him a hatchet. So at Thanksgiving, he could kill turkeys.
He won an award for being a peacemaker. Can you imagine that?
No, John, you read... Now, see what you just did?
What did he win for?
He didn't win anything. He's never won anything in his life. He's...
Are you sure?
KGB.
Did you miss that one?
No.
All right. Okay. Well, since I'm not 100% sure, I'm only 98% sure. I'll let that one go.
I got you in the defense. This is good. Yeah. No, Eric Snowden to me, and I'm going to say that there was a vice president by the name of Cheney. And we talked about that before, I believe, who gave up a spy, who was our spy. And suddenly, I don't know whether the press is very nice to, because they used to be, back in the days of John Kennedy and things like that. They used to be doing things, and the press used to give them a break on this thing. So I don't know whether they gave the vice president, not because he shot his best friend, because those things happen in the best of hunting world with guns. He did shoot him, and he was sorry. He wasn't sorry.
Yeah, he obviously wasn't very skilled with a gun. You don't shoot your friends if you know what you're doing with a gun. I'd venture to say, I wonder if he ever took a safety course with a gun.
He never took a safety course when it came to giving up spies,
because
he gave up a spy. Yeah. But I'll tell you what else happened, which is very interesting, too, because I know you can keep
He's one of the smartest men in terms of sheer intelligence.
Which just proves that intelligence doesn't tell it.
That's true.
But there was a guy, I don't know if I got his name, if I can get to it right away. I don't know if I can find him or not. But he had an aide, his chief aide, as a matter of fact. And his aide was given up to be prosecuted because you couldn't prosecute the vice president of the United States, So, and they didn't prosecute the vice president, and he was found guilty. of doing what? The vice president did it. How come his aide, Scooter something, I mean, what a great
Oh,
name.
Scooter Libby.
Scooter Libby, he did it, come to find out. His aide did it. The vice president didn't do it after
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Everybody thought, well, gee, I thought
Yeah,
it was the vice president.
that didn't work for Nixon, though.
No, it didn't work because that was something which the press turned on him. I'm saying the press didn't turn on the vice president, so they took Scooter. I mean, I just picture him riding around a little
How many
scooter.
fall guys do you think there are in this administration, or fall ladies in this administration?
Yes.
Taking the hit.
But
Let me ask
I'm
you
saying
about
when
this.
we talk about Snowden, I'm saying we had a vice president within the last 5 years or 10 years, say 10 years, who gave up a spy, and Scooter not only was convicted,
Yeah.
but the president of the United States, I forget what his name was, president of the United States, forgave him for that. It's just a wonderful gesture on his part.
Yeah.
But he didn't send him to jail. What he gave him, but he did not overrule the finding, though.
Right.
Scooter Libby has a record now
Yeah.
of fraud and whatever you want to say he
But
did.
he released him. It was payback for him taking the hit, taking the fall. Now let me ask you this.
So I will get back to
I know
Snowden.
you're a big Democrat. This won't take long.
Well, I'm a small Democrat, but I'm getting smaller, too.
How do you feel about President Obama's continuous allegations that no matter what kind of scandal pops up in the administration, that he knew absolutely nothing about it
I'm going to tell
until we read it in the papers and he learns about it with us. That was true with the gun running. That was true with the HSA. That was true with the IRS. That's true with the Obamacare launch. That was true with a reporter they
Did
got off
Ronald
of-
Reagan know about the Iran-Contra?
I don't know.
He said he didn't know.
I don't know.
He said he didn't know.
I don't know whether he knew, but
He said he didn't.
he did. He said he did know about some things. Don't you think, as the president,
No,
it would
no.
be wise to claim
I'm gonna
you have
gi-
some
you're going to give me
knowledge
the
of
last
something?
word. Yeah. I'm going to
No,
give you.
so
I'm going
tell
to give
me.
you. No, John. I'm going to give you a sentence because you are an expert on this. I'm going to give you the sentence. You're going to give me the last word. Need to.
Yeah, no.
Need to know.
Yeah.
See, you know it. But why
But
are you
that-
doubting
that's
that
not
the
the
president
point. I
did-
understand.
Well, no, because there's things that people do in the administration
Yeah.
that all
Yeah.
administrations
I know.
that
I
it's
know,
a
but
need
Don,
to know.
how many times can you do that?
As
Before somebody
many
says,
times
well, wait
as
a
you
minute,
need.
What
That's-
are you
John,
doing
John,
exactly?
That's what need to know is.
What
As
are you
ma-
doing exactly? Since you don't know anything about this, you know, you're not informed
Need to
about
know.
any of
Need
it.
to-
What are you doing in your job?
See, the only reason they
you
know
remember the-
Nixon knew beyond need to know
Yeah.
was he kept his own tapes. If he
yeah, I
didn't,
understand.
Mrs. Reached out and
I
missing.
saw you
if
saw
they
this
did-
movie too. I think probably it was called Independence Day, where these aliens supposedly came down and took over the earth and everything.
No, I didn't see that.
You didn't see that?
No.
Well, as the earth was being vanquished by these foreign creatures.
We're finishing on a high note.
Yeah, well, that's right. You know, the president
Yeah.
was flown to a place of safety.
Yeah.
And when
Lawrence, Mass.
when he flew, is that where it's safe?
Yes, where he went to.
Anyway, he was flown, and when he went into this place, they had aliens in there. They had
Yeah.
old spaceships that had crashed. They had all of those things. And he said, "How is it that I didn't know about this?"
Yeah.
And his closest aide came up and said, "Mr. President, plausible deniability." Best terms I've ever heard.
But that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So why would you deny our current presidents the same thing that they gave to George Washington?
Because he's been
Every
back to the
president-
well too many times, Don.
Well, that's
Too many times.
that's a matter of opinion. I will just say no.
Indeed
It is
it
not a
is.
matter of opinion, and it is so. And we're going to say that we thank you very much. I want to say before we go off the air, November 1, Bill Nickerson passed away in 2012. 1 year. It's the anniversary, and he was just a wonderful human being, and he was the beginning of this show. So, to the Nickerson family, my best, and to all, a good night.
I express my same regards, and thank you for joining us this evening.
We agree to disagree.